AP Psychology, Chapter 10, Part 5. So, do animals think? Common cognitive skills in humans and apes include the following: concept formation, insight, and problem solving in culture and mind. Two chimps, Sherman and Austin, had been taught by Dwayne Rumbaugh to communicate via computer keyboard. They use geometric symbols called lexicograms, each of which stands for a word. The lexicograms are printed on a touch-sensitive plates arranged on a board, which is in turn attached to the computer. Every touch of a symbol by a teacher or a chimp can be recorded. The chimps have learned to use the board to request such things as food and tools. In addition, when their instructors touch a symbol, the chimps will give a requested item to them. The chimps, however, have learned their lessons very slowly. In fact, it took them 3 years to understand that the lexicograms were the means of communicating about things that weren't present. As noted briefly in the text, Savage and Rumbaugh has reported her remarkable findings from research with Kanzi, which means treasure in Swahili, and his younger stepsister, Mulika, both pygmy chimps and related to the species to which Sherman and Austin belong. Once we began studying the pygmy chimp, states the researcher, all the things I learned about how other chimpanzees acquire language disappeared. Kanzi spent the first 2 years in a laboratory with his mother, who was learning to use lexicograms. When she was removed to breed, he began using the lexicograms spontaneously within a week. Without any specific instruction, Kanzi apparently mastered the connections between symbols and objects. While Sherman and Austin had learned through reward, Kanzi had learned much like a child, that is, by imitation. If Kanzi could learn without instruction, I wondered why teach, says Savage Rumbaugh. From then on, Kanzi learned by going through the ordinary activities of his day while humans spoke in English and pointed to the appropriate lexicograms on portable boards. Soon he used the lexicograms to request games and treats and activities. Eventually, he learned to combine 2 or more symbols to communicate his desires. For example, he asked for Fire TV to watch a favorite movie, Quest for Fire. Unlike most chimps, Kanzi can make requests of the form of agent-verb-recipient, in which he is neither the agent nor the recipient. The requests of other chimps are limited to single verbs in which the agent is the addressee and the chimp the recipient. Thus, they have no need to indicate a specific agent or recipient. Most significant, Kanzi, born in 1980, has been able to demonstrate a grasp of grammatical concepts such as word order. Moreover, Kanzi not only deduces meaning with syntactical structure, he goes beyond the literal meaning of sentence. When asked to go to the potty and get the sparklers, he retrieves the sparklers from the potty rather than first using the potty and then getting them, as a word-by-word decoding of the sentence would mean. Savage Rumbaugh compared the responses of Kanzi and those of 2-year-old girl named Aaliyah to commands expressed in 660 English sentences. The sentences combined objects in ways that the 2 subjects were unlikely to have heard before. Put the melon in the potty, or go get the carrot that's in the microwave. Through most of the experiment, Kanzi's ability matched that of Aaliyah's. Eventually, however, the girl's language skills began to outpace the chimp's. Kanzi's grammatical comprehension topped out at a level of a 2.5-year-old. Kanzi's real significance is that the critics are more willing to accept the results as valid because of the careful controls exercised in the studies. For example, a one-way mirror prevented Kanzi and Aaliyah from seeing who gave them commands, and those assessing the performance of the ape and the toddler wore earphones to prevent them from hearing the requests. Each sentence was entirely new to both ape and child. All these procedures removed earlier concerns that the animals were merely responding to cues from their trainers. Unlike Kanzi, Mulika has not been able to observe her mother during symbol training. She can, however, observe Kanzi. While Mulika's symbol usage is less than that of Kanzi, she has progressed farther than her brother had at a similar age. Sue Savage Rumbaugh recently joined the Great Ape Trust of Iowa, a nonprofit organization that studies the cognitive and communicative abilities of all four types of great apes: bonobos, chimpanzees, gorillas, and orangutans. Savage Rumbaugh will bring with her and be responsible for a brood of 8 bonobos, including Kanzi. All 8 will occupy a $10 million, 13,000 square foot home close to Des Moines. The bonobos will be able to cook in their own kitchen, use vending machines for snacks, take walks in the woods, and communicate with researchers through their computer touchscreens. The decor in the 18-room homes includes an indoor waterfall and a climbing areas that are 30 feet high. Visitors are permitted, but the bonobos will choose through touchscreens who can actually come into their secured viewing area. Bonobos have an expected lifespan of 50 years, and they will be allowed to mate and have families. Savage Rumbaugh claims that the animals will develop cultures that will be studied for generations to come. Researcher Lou Herman suggests that pygmy chimps' accomplishments raise basic issues about animal thinking, particularly about the relationship between intelligence and language. The real question, says Herman, is whether the language in humans is governed by language box, or is it just an expression of our superior cognitive abilities? I believe that there are biological mechanisms for human beings to learn language, but they are laid on a large base of cognitive skills. Many animals have that underlying base. Innovative studies are now probing chimps' brains for structures and patterns of activity that produce language in humans. For example, a Mount Sinai School of Medicine in New York, neurobiologist Patrick Gannon and his associates have examined the preserved brains of chimps that died natural deaths while in captivity. They were looking for the plenum temporal, a small structure in the auditory association cortex that in humans is used to understand and generate language. In 17 of the 18 animals, the PT was larger on the left side of the brain than on the right. A similar pattern is found in most people. Lateralization indicates that the structure has developed a special function. The researchers concluded that the chimpanzees possess the automatic neural substrate for language, essentially identical to that of humans. In studying the brains of living chimps, William Hopkins of Yeeks Regional Primate Research Center has found exactly what Mount Sinai researchers discovered in cadaver brains. The language controlling PT is larger on the left side than on the right. Steven Pinker of MIT observes that although the function of the PT in humans is language, in chimps it might be just process and recognize calls. He argues that just because 2 computer chips are the same size and have 16 wires coming out of them doesn't mean they perform the same function. To know that you'd have to look at the wiring diagram inside. Savage Rumbaugh is using PET scans to study the brains of chimps, Lana and Ponzi. Her goal is to see whether areas corresponding to the human language circuits turn on when Lana uses lexicograms and Ponzi responds to speech. If the brain scans show that doing linguistic tasks, circuits that mirror hearing and remembering do not, says Pinker, that would be interesting. So we're going to list 5 cognitive skills shared by the great apes and humans. Insight: chimpanzees show insightful behavior when solving problems. Animals, especially great apes, show remarkable capacities for thinking. Both grapes and humans form concepts, display insight, use and create tools, transmit cultural innovations, and have theory of mind, including capacity for reasoning, self-recognition, empathy, intuition, and understanding of another's minds. Apes are famous, much like us, for solving problems. Animals display customs and culture that are learned and transmitted over generations, such as dolphins using sponges as foraging tools, and chimpanzee mothers teaching young how to use a stone hammer. Mental states: can animals infer mental states in themselves and others? To some extent, chimps and orangutans and dolphins use mirrors to inspect themselves when a researcher put paint spots on their faces or bodies. Animals obviously communicate. Velvet monkeys have different alarm cries for different predators. Whales communicate with clicks, and whales communicate the location of food through an intricate dance. Several teams and psychologists have taught various species of apes, including a number of chimpanzees, to communicate with humans by singing or pushing buttons. Words together to express meaning have taught their skills to younger animals. Skeptics point out, however, important differences between apes, humans, facilities with language, especially in their respective abilities to master the verbal or signed expression of complex rules of syntax. Nevertheless, studies reveal that apes have considerable ability to think and communicate. There is no doubt that animals communicate. Vervet monkeys, whales, and even honeybees communicate with members of their species and other species. The case of apes, chimps do not have vocal apparatus for human-like speech. Therefore, Gardner used the American Sign Language to train Washu, a chimp who learned 182 signs by the age of 32. Gestured communication. Animals, like humans, exhibit communication through gestures. It is possible that vocal speech developed from gestures during the course of evolution. American Sign Language is instrumental in teaching chimpanzees a form of communication. When asked, this chimpanzee uses a sign to say it is a baby. Others have shown Bonbo pygmy chimps can develop even greater vocabularies and perhaps semantic nuances in learning language. Savage Rumbaugh and Kanzi and Panabish developed vocabulary of 100 words and phrases. Apes acquire their limited vocabularies with a great deal of difficulty, however, unlike children who develop vocabularies at amazing rates. Chimpanzees can make signs to receive a reward, just as a pigeon who pecks at the key receives a reward. However, pigeons have not learned language. Chimpanzees use signs of meaningful but lack syntax. Presented with ambiguous information, the people tend to see what they want to see. If we say that animals can use meaningful sequences of signs to communicate a capability for language, our understanding would be naive. Steven Pinker concludes that chimps do not develop language. That is the end of Chapter 10. Thank you.